This is way better than we thought, as we have multiple huge Leafs updates to go over today ahead of what's going to be an absolutely electric Game 5 against Ottawa. We're going to break down those updates as they have serious implications going forward, not just in this game tonight, but rounds beyond that as well. So stay tuned for all that in this episode as well. Some very interesting comments from the players, the coaching staff, and one particular comment from Max Pacioretty that will have you ready to run through a wall. So, ton to go over today. Before we get into it, if you're part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support has been unbelievable. If you're part of that 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys. We just hit 16,000 subscribers. So thank you guys for allowing us to hit that. We're on the road now to 17,000. And of course, the big goal of 20,000. And we'll be live following tonight's hopefully series clinching game to witness some Leafs and Core 4, mainly Core 4 history for the second time around, winning, getting past the first round, which is sad to say. But let's dive right into it. There's lots to go over today and a lot to go over today. So you want to stay tuned for it all. Let's start with the first piece of news here. Dennis Hildeby has joined the team for this morning's skate as the Marlies season has ended. As Brad Living, and we covered it, mentioned a few days ago, they were planning to bring up some players from the Marlies. So Dennis Hildeby is going to be up with the team, which is always good. We kind of discussed that. It's always a good thing to have these guys, in here, especially Dennis Hildeby, who I actually think could, and I would say in 2 or 3 years, maybe be one of the the runner-ups for the goaltender position. But let's dive into some of the news, and we'll dive back to that in a minute. Anthony Stolarz has been confirmed as the starter for tonight's game, and we also have a quote from Berube that kind of sheds some light on the future thinking of that as well. But Darius, Stolarz is in net, and there is no lineup changes tonight for the Leafs, which means, as we speculated yesterday, Max Pacioretty is going to return to the lineup, or I guess stay in the lineup. No return for Nick Robertson. And you see here, Camp Robertson, Dakota Mermis, Philip Myers, Yanni Hakanpää are the only skaters out late. So no changes tonight. And Anthony Stolarz is in the net. So they have faith with their current squad.
Yeah, we have a great quote from Max Pacioretty today as well, which we'll get to in a second. But he's staying in the lineup, and then obviously I think Artur Akhtiamov was called up as well as the third goalie. Now Dennis Hildeby is joining the team. I think it's really good for those guys to kind of see what Stolarz and Wall are doing during this period to kind of prepare for games and see what the playoffs are like. So that's a really good thing for their experience and all of that, and how they're eventually going to come up to be Toronto Maple Leafs as well. So that's nice to see. And then in terms of the game tonight, hopefully they can close it out tonight. It'd be nice. You're up 3-1, right? Obviously, you lose the last game. It was tight. I expect it to be another tight game, but I do have faith that they're going to close it out tonight. And then in terms of lineup decisions, they have been playing well, right? Like Berube is not lying. He said that, I haven't made any changes because they've been playing well, and there's no reason to make a change. Pacioretty has a good opportunity tonight to come in and be physical as well. So I think that's going to be a factor. And Matthews obviously just off yesterday for rest. So he's going to be back in. He's going to be back doing his thing. And I said yesterday, I saw some of the comments and I've seen some of the reaction online, people not thinking he's the best player in this series. He most definitely is the best player in this series in all 3 zones. He just is. He's dominating his minutes right now. If you look at the advanced analytics, all of that, even Mitch Marner, I have to give credit to Mitch Marner as well. And Matthew Knies, that line has been phenomenal this series. So I'm looking for another big game from them. They have to keep it up because this is the thing I've been talking about all season. When this part of the series comes, when it's game 5, 6, 7, they slowly start to go away. So do they show up when they need them most tonight? They need to have another big game. You can't just take any game off during the playoffs. You need to have a big game. That's kind of what Jared Bednar of the Colorado Avalanche was talking to. You can't have bad games in the playoffs. You have to find a way to make it work. So I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do tonight. Not worried about the defense. I think Stolarz will bounce back as well. I don't know how you feel about that, Nick, because obviously you've been on the Stolarz train all year, but I think he's going to have a bounce back performance, and I think they're going to close out the series tonight.
Yeah, he's the goalie of, and like we'll dive into it in a little bit here, he's the goalie for the Leafs this playoff run. If they're either going to make or break with Anthony Stolarz, and I don't see him changing, I think tonight's going to be, I would just like, obviously a win tonight would go a long way, just for the narratives, because if they lose tonight, then panic is going to start setting in. There's days in between games, all these different things. And speaking of Austin Matthews, he did miss yesterday's practice with rest. We have a quote from him as well. He's back on the ice doing a skill session with Patrick O'Sullivan and Max Domi. So he's 100% good to go. If there was any worries about maybe a hidden injury or anything like that, it was just full on rest, especially given a time now. Even though they did have a couple days in between games, we saw also, which we'll dive into a little bit later, Florida won their game against Tampa. So there might not be a massive break in between games, depending, of course, how the series shape up here, but we were hoping that series is going to go 7. Doesn't look like it quite yet, with both series being 3-1, which is something once we get past this series, we'll have to dive into more. Regarding Joseph Woll, he is also back after being under the weather. So it seems like whatever flu was going around, and maybe that's what Matthews was dealing with yesterday, everything is good. Everything lined up perfect. And It's better than I thought. There's absolutely no injuries across the board. And of course, we covered it in yesterday's video. Tavares back out there today looking very, very good. Now, I want to dive in a couple quotes before we dive into the Sens lines, which is going to be a pretty interesting thing as well, especially with the Leafs now back at home. So we'll dive into this here. Now, you can see we'll start. There's 3 different quotes. We'll start with Craig Berube. I've liked our game, so I don't see a reason to change it right now. And he's, of course, referring to the lineup with Nick Robertson and Max Pacioretty. The swap there makes all the sense in the world. It's been working. Pacioretty did have a bad game yesterday, or 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago. He wasn't the reason the Leafs lost the game. But let's dive into the Max Pacioretty quote here. And this one is, it's pretty exciting. And I think this is probably part of the reason why Max Pacioretty is going to get the nod back out there. He's played in the playoffs a lot more than Nick Robertson. Even after one bad game, Berube has full confidence he'll be able to bounce back. He said, I walk home, so you kind of see it a little bit more when you're walking home after the game. They got their fans into it early last game and used some momentum there, and we expect to do the same with our fans. And he's basically not calling out the fans, but he's telling them to really go. And he also said, you got to play each night like you're willing to die on that ice. So part of that quote as well. That's one way to fire up the fans. And I do ultimately think, since it's the first, I believe since 2001 or 2002 against the Senators, it is an elimination game at home for the Leafs and something we genuinely haven't seen in over 20 years. It's pretty exciting, and I hope Scotiabank Arena, responds as they should, because quite frankly, the Canadian Tire Center responded a lot better than a lot of us thought.
Yeah, for sure they did. And I mean, credit where credit's due. It was loud in there, but I think it's going to be really loud at Scotiabank Arena tonight because the Leafs have a great opportunity in front of them. You can close out the series tonight on home ice. All the fans in that building, all the fans watching at home want to see that happen. All the fans listening on the radio, wherever you're watching or listening to the game, they want to see it happen tonight. And I think Max Pacioretty's not calling out the fan base because Matthew said something very similar this morning as well. He's not calling out the fan base or anything like that. They just expect it to be loud. They're amped. The players are excited to get going tonight because they know the atmosphere is going to be incredible in that building and the opportunity that they have in front of them. So it's going to be really fun. And the other quote too about being willing to die on the ice, right? Like that's the stuff that Leafs fans want to hear because that's the stuff that a lot of Leaf fans grew up watching, right? So we like to hear that, and I want to see what he's going to be able to do tonight because he has to have a bounce back game as well. He wasn't very good in game 4. He was very effective in game 3. So if he can get back to doing that, I think they'll have a really good shot tonight. So love to see that stuff. And then Matthews as well coming out and saying that, everyone's banged up, we're just playing through stuff. We're ready to rock here. So, everybody's grinding. It's not a big deal. So everyone's ready to go here. I think it's very exciting for Leafs fans. And I think this is the type of stuff that Leafs fans honestly want to hear because we haven't been hearing a lot of what we've been hearing this year, which is very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, regardless of the last game in game 4, this is what you watch the whole season for. It's for games like tonight at home. And also, one quick thing before we wrap up here. Let's dive into the Sens lines, and then we'll dive into a quick Berube quote. So, anything you take away from these lines today? You have Kachuk, Sussel, Giroux, Perron, Cousins, Batherson, Highmore, Pinto, Amadio, Cousins, Gaudette, and of course, Zetterlund with their blue line and Ullmark back in net. Anything you take away from this? Anything to keep an eye out on as they travel back to Toronto, where Ullmark has been really bad? He performed a lot better at home than on the road here.
I think there's going to be something about Artem Zub tonight. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think the Leafs should go out of their way and do something, but I think there's going to be something there. So that could be interesting to keep an eye on for sure. But I think everything's status quo, honestly, for both teams. I think they both like how they've been playing, honestly. And Travis Green's been saying that. I don't know if he really truly believes that. Maybe he does, but they haven't been winning, but the games have been close. So, everything's status quo, I think, for both teams here. But I think that the Leafs they're going to take this one. I mean, there's too much riding on this game. The narrative, it's going to be the longest Wednesday in the history of Leaf fans. Any Wednesday they've ever lived if they lose this game tonight. So, the narrative would really shift. So this is a good opportunity for the Leafs, and I think they can beat this team. They've done it already, and they didn't beat them all regular season. They won 3 straight, and obviously Ottawa got one there in overtime. I think the Leafs close it out tonight.
Yeah, hopefully. And regarding status quo, you can see here, Craig Berube spoke out on Joseph Woll's long break between starts. I'm focused on Stolarz. That's where I'm at. I don't think there's any reason to change right now. So if anyone was hoping that Woll was going to get in, I think Stolarz, like I mentioned earlier, is the goalie, and Craig Berube confirms that going forward, not just tonight's game, but heading into the next series, assuming they win, knock on wood, against the Florida Panthers, which we also assume. But we'll have some clarity very, very soon. 2 series at 3-1. Of course, there's the Canadian series, there's the Avalanche series, a lot of great series, probably one of the best first rounds in recent memory for the NHL, and hopefully the Leafs can just get themselves out of the first round and then spectate for a little bit and take a breather, and I'm sure us as fans wouldn't mind that either after the pain we've gone through over the past 8 or 9 years. But that'll wrap it up. Let us know what your thoughts are. See you guys later.